University School of Nashville is like a place where you can learn and make friends.
And I love that we cherish our individuality and we celebrate it.
We have a lot of freedoms, we have a lot of responsibilities.
I think USN's greatest strength is its racial diversity.
I would say that the one word I would choose in particular would be like enlightening.
I would say fun.
It's really fun, and every Friday we have ice cream and we work as a community.
It's nothing short of remarkable that this school, that these walls have stood the test of time in this form for the 100 years.
The story begins in 1911, the year Bruce Ryburn Payne comes to Nashville to become the first president of George Peabody College for Teachers. Payne wants to educate the teachers and leaders who will revitalize education throughout the South, and he needs a place to do so. A place where student teachers at Peabody can learn from the most skilled in their profession.
And we take tremendous inspiration from the educational visionaries who were bold enough to say, we will build this school and it will be the best school you've ever seen.
And so Peabody Demonstration School begins in the summer of 1915 with elementary classes meeting in the basement of the Jessup Psychology Building on the college campus. The new school is led by Thomas Alexander. Only 27 years old, he is a visionary who believes education should transform society and empower students to think, to feel, to do, to be.
Everything is so different 100 years later, but the mission of the school to value the individual, to educate the individual, to try to practice the best things about teaching, that hasn't changed about our school.
Soon the demonstration school is drawing children from all over Nashville, outgrowing its original space, as students who have studied their school's history can tell you.
Well, my decade was the 1920s, and the most surprising thing that happened was just having the building being built and everything being like new and having all the new students coming towards it.
The school moves to its current Edge Hill Avenue location in 1925. There, students enjoy the quiet freedom and happy ease of atmosphere that Dr. Alexander envisions.
Probably first and foremost, there's a love of learning, and to be in an environment where learning is paramount is really an incredible experience. And that always comes first around here, but it also never comes at the expense of caring for each other.
So this is USN's Community Service Day. Right now we're at the Edge Hill Community Garden.
The garden feeds the community, the residents. Miss Betty White came and she says, what do you think about us bringing students up here to help in the garden? And I said, they are welcome. We'd be glad to have them.
I think being involved with service is a lot more than being involved in service. It is a lot more than doing. It is being, it is becoming. What we have and what we can give often isn't necessarily materialistic, but rather it is giving someone a smile, giving someone encouragement, giving someone hope.
My decade was the 1930s. Coach Bill Schwartz, in autumn of 1934, he led the football team to a 9-0 championship when they won the Little Ten Championship in 1934.
My decade was the 1940s, and the cafeteria was on the top floor, and for the kindergartners, they had to walk up all the floors instead of them just going around the corner.
My grandfather was here in the 30s and early 40s, back when USN was still Peabody Demonstration School. And one of the things that always strikes me when I talk to him about USN is that the things that we think about now as characteristics of the school feel very constant in his mind.
Through an economic depression, through 2 world wars, Peabody Demonstration School builds on its constants, such as the relationship between teacher and student.
The most important element in all of my years at the Demo School and University School would be that interaction with faculty and pupils, without question.
I'll tell you exactly what broke the ice with Miss McAbee. Was we were having a party, as always, a class shindig in the library, and we needed something from the home ec room, which was on the top floor. So we went up there, and she put her hand on the door to go in, and it was locked. She said, "Damn." And then she realized I was standing there, and she turned, she said, "If you ever tell anybody I said that, I'm just going to tell them you're a liar."
Well, my decade was the 50s, and the most surprising thing I learned about my decade was probably that we had a fire in that decade.
That was in June of 1954, and as I walked from where I was living at that time in the direction of the DEM school, about 2 or 3 blocks away, the streets were blocked off.
There was a fire at our school in here, and the auditorium and many books got burned down.
I think by Wednesday, or maybe no later than the Thursday of that week that the building burned, we were in session under the tent.
I think the school from the very beginning has been committed to broad-mindedness, inclusion.
It's kind of a mixing pot, a melting pot. You know, just look around this room. It's so diverse. You know, and I think that's what USN's about.
In the 1960s at PDS, the school was about to be integrated by full black students into the high school.
Well, Peabody College desegregated in 1963, and after that, a lot of African Americans in the education community in Nashville thought that maybe the demonstration school would do the same. So for the 1963 school year, we applied to the university school, the DEM school, and received a nice letter back that said, "Thank you so much for applying, but we are not accepting Negroes at this time. Please feel free to apply next year." So we did.
Knox McCarran was director at that time. I remember that he made a point of talking individually with each faculty member, telling him or her that integration would occur in the fall of 1964.
There was no governor at the door. There were no dogs. We just walked up the steps to the school.
In 1969, Dolores Nicholson becomes the school's first African-American teacher.
And I had already been through the refiner's fire, as it were, in Charlotte, where they really didn't want integration anyway. And so they would have these little, let's just say, quirky ways of letting you know. There really wasn't anything anybody here could do to me that hadn't been done. And I knew what I was doing, and that's what I did. So I didn't have those problems, but I was doing a lot of international music, foreign language things, and you had mostly Peabody and Vanderbilt faculty, many of whom had come from other countries, and they were very happy about this.
We had religions, we had people from different locations, different backgrounds, different talents, and everybody respected each other.
But it isn't long before the school reaches a crossroads. In 1974, Peabody College decides to stop all financial support.
I think the most surprising thing I learned was when I found out that that was the year that changed PDS to USN.
It's a fact that an emissary from the college walked into registration as the school year was about to begin and announced unceremoniously that this would be the last year of the demonstration school for completely understandable reasons.
I was real excited. It was my first real job,
and I came into the auditorium and in-service began, and the first thing on the agenda was that the school would close after that year.
Bernard and Betty Worthen, along with other PDS parents and faculty, cannot allow the school to close.
My feeling at the time was that there was just no other place for my kids to go.
So we were terrified. We met every Saturday for the whole school year. There was no guarantee. We didn't know whether it was going to work or not.
So we called a meeting of everybody that was teachers, administration, parents, to get the idea across. Don't give up. We're going to give it a try.
With the strength and the dedication of parents, and all of this was so apparent to me as an insider, I just knew it couldn't fail.
The doors stay open, and the students choose a new name, University School of Nashville.
So in some ways we had to create. It was Genesis, it was the birth of this institution, even though it had a marvelous past, but that past was marvelous many decades earlier.
We never appreciated what the opportunities were or what the challenges were, and that's where I think Harvey really had a tremendous impact.
So I came here and they were in need of just about everything, but most of all, the need to decide what type of school they would become. They couldn't go backwards, they had to go ahead.
It's never really been about building more buildings. It's really been about building program and having the physical space to support the program.
There's 3 deer? I only saw 2.
At USN, that space is often outside the conventional classroom.
Well, we have the Young Naturalist program, which moves, each grade has a focused exploration throughout that year that connects them into the natural world.
And we have a lot of field trips, and they're really fun because I like going into nature. And I especially like the ones where we go to lakes, because usually I like to put my feet in the lake.
I've always said that the athletic field is the classroom of life, and we've learned and shared many life lessons with each other through the course of practices and competitions.
You guys have molded clay before, right? You've felt it in your hands, been able to manipulate it, mold it. Glass, I can't touch it because it's so hot.
You know what this is? It's an airbag, yep. And I cut it out of the car. This was never deployed.
It's very special to me that, like, as an artist, that USN allows their students to flourish in other areas other than just focusing on straight academics.
Today, USN is measured not only by the defining moments of its past, but by the character of its students. Graduates include winners of the Nobel and Pulitzer Prizes.
USN's not trying to mold you in a certain way. USN's about letting you mold yourself.
They want to know your name, and at the same time, they want you to know your name. They want you to know the meaning of yourself.
The way I experience it is we're building on the core that was always here, and we're building out, but the center is still the center, right? And we're not tearing those walls down. We're preserving what was here as we build outward.
I think as we've looked back on the history of USN, it's been really eye-opening to see how much we've grown in the past 100 years. And so I'm really interested to see how much USN is going to change. Like, will it be to the same degree, or will we stay the same?
I'd like to see new classes and children learning new things.
I think that there will probably be amazing technology, and maybe robots will be teaching the classes.
It's improved over the last 100 years.